Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Hello and welcome to Share Talk. Today I'm joined by Joshua Fegan, who is CEO and Managing Director at Althea Group Holdings Limited. How are you today, Joshua?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me, Zach.
You are on the Australian market, and do you have any plans to come to the UK?
We are listed on the ASX, and we feel the UK represents a great opportunity in terms of the investment community here. So, everything's on the table, put it that way.
I think the good news is that in recent weeks, the UK market has been, flooded, but there's been something of a gold rush in the cannabis space in all shapes and forms, the consumer side and medical side. In what particular area do you fit in terms of Althea?
Althea's been around for quite a few years now, so we've seen these things unfold in other jurisdictions as well. But we're very much a pharmaceutical cannabis company. We also have a non-pharmaceutical cannabis division, but the way we operate is very similar to how you would see a normal drug company or pharma company like GSK, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, that type of thing in terms of how they launch drugs to market. It's all based on what we call market access, which is essentially taking your master drug files to doctors, talking about your medicines. Obviously, you cover off the safety and quality pretty quickly. And then it becomes about clinical evidence and really getting them to understand your drugs and trying to get them to use it in their therapy area. And if the doctors have a good experience, usually with problem patients, and based on the indications that our products are being utilised for, they go on to prescribe them to more patients. And that's how you earn your place in medicine.
So the point's of difference, because as I said, there are quite a few companies around now, and I'd like to sort of draw a line, clear blue water between you and the rest. You've been around a long time as well, or much longer than these, let's say, more fly-by-night individuals. So you have the experience in the marketplace.
Correct, absolutely. And the work that we do is very important, because you could have the best drug in the world, but if you don't have a doctor there to prescribe it, it's not going to go anywhere commercially. So again, it comes back to, we haven't reinvented the wheel. We see cannabis as an active pharmaceutical ingredient. We have some very high quality products available, but the best way to get them into patients' hands is by educating doctors about their therapeutic benefit. And that's what we do better than anyone in the world. We in fact have a proprietary medical device called Althea Concierge, which is pretty much a medical app that doctors use to learn about our products. It also helps them with clinical decisions. And it's also available to patients so that they get the treatment plan from the doctor and can carry through with the observation that way. So it's a very patient access orientated approach that we have. And whilst this whole game is a marathon, that's just the case when launching new drugs. We're very much at the top end of our field.
I mean, that is something that maybe people don't appreciate. You can have the best drug in the world, but because doctors tend to be rather conservative and sort of set in their ways, let's say, they may not prescribe it. They keep going for the aspirin rather than whatever new painkiller may be around. And that is something that you've addressed.
Correct. You need to be front of mind for doctors, and without oversimplifying it, doctors have a bag of tricks that they use for different ailments. And our objective is to become one of those tricks in their bag of tricks. And, the medicine more often than not speaks for itself. We've just got to get it into the right hands.
You said in the latest update you're focused on growing your footprint. It's quite a sprawling offer that you have. What's the particular focus of the business that you want to grow, and what are the particular geographies that you maybe want to grow for the rest of 2021?
Yeah, so we're very much focused on our European growth strategy. There are quite a few emerging markets over here in Europe. In fact, there's support that it will become the largest legal cannabis marketplace in the world within 5 years, worth an estimated 26 billion. So we know that this is essentially our new home. We have an office in London. We've been here for almost 2 years now, so we're very serious about our approach here in the UK and also as a springboard into the wider European continent. We recently launched products for the first time in Germany. We're one of probably 4 or 5 brands in our type of preparations that are available for sale in that country. We also have place in a national cannabis trial that's happening in France at the moment. So we're quite close with the ANSM, the health regulator. We do foresee that marketplace coming online in terms of legislation, hopefully within the next 18 months to 24 months. It's very much calculated, our market entry strategy. We won't just go anywhere. But, again, where we do go, we set up really well. We work with the right people. And eventually those doctors, if you do it well, will give you compounding interest because, there's plenty of patients out there in the indications that our products are being utilised for. In fact, two of the biggest, pain and mental health, which is probably more apparent now than ever. Yeah, we're happy with our progress, but as I said, it is a marathon, not a sprint.
A few points that come through which may or may not be relevant questions for you. First one you've just touched on, I suppose, is that in the last year, clearly the pandemic's changed the game for everyone. How has that affected you? Is it either positively, negatively, either in the products or in the rollout?
In terms of market access, the big positive was getting doctors to utilise technology more than they were, especially when we have a really cool medical app or a software as a medical device in Althea Concierge. It's certainly driven a lot more uptake of that, which is great. We're talking about a profession that we're used to using facsimile or faxes. That's been a real positive. The negative impact, and I should say that I'm grateful that our business is considered an essential service and we're one of the lucky businesses that can operate in these tough conditions. But, a negative was that to do what we do best, we need to get in front of doctors and our in-field representatives need to work with them pretty closely. And clearly with the virus in the beginning, it was quite hard to do so. And, it's kind of normalised a little bit. So our interactions have certainly picked up more recently. But, we still grew. I just think we could have grown a lot more without the virus because we would have had those interactions in maximising the potential of them.
So there could be a bit of a logjam effect, positive one, after the pandemic or as the pandemic starts to recede for you.
Absolutely. The opportunity hasn't gone away. It is still there and as apparent as ever. It's just been another hurdle, that in the most part we've overcome.
The other point, which may or may not be a clever question, you're rolling out through different geographies. Wouldn't it be easier to have a joint venture with, say, big pharma companies, something like that? And also, couldn't you, license product, get other people to do the sort of the heavy lifting of the boots on the ground type of activity that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in pharmaceuticals, there's really two ways of setting up relationships when you're a drug manufacturer. One is you just license out your drug and a distributor in whatever territory buys that license and essentially sells it into the market how they see fit. Or another approach is it's almost like a 50-50 JV, but it's under a services agreement. And essentially you provide the goods to them at a transfer price. And then both companies, the distributor in the territory and the manufacturer, essentially, split the costs of getting the drugs to market and recoup 50% of the profits each. That's how our business is set up in Germany with a pharmaceutical wholesaler there. The UK business and our Australian business, we're a wholly owned subsidiary. So part of the reason why we chose to go into market access and doing our own sales and distribution is because no other cannabis manufacturer was. So that's the unique thing about Althea Group and our Althea brand. We're essentially building the marketplace at the same time as achieving market share. I think that's important because it's a lot easier to sustain market share as the market gets bigger and bigger than it is to earn market share. The other thing is the French trial that I was talking about. Our partner for that trial is I think a $10 or $12 billion pharmaceutical company called Recordati. We're definitely having conversations with them about the French commercialization, even when that's legislated as well. So absolutely, local partners is important, but it's all about doing the work with the medical community, launching these drugs the right way, and then the sales will follow.
So you basically got first mover advantage and you built your own railroad.
Absolutely. Yeah, correct. And, the expertise that we now have in terms of that patient access and being able to educate doctors, and we've now onboarded over 15,000 patients. So we know what we're doing in highly, highly regulated marketplaces, which, I realise Canada is federally legal, but, in terms of stringency, it's probably a 3 out of 10. Australia and the UK is more like a 9, 10 out of 10. So we have that expertise, and, the Althea concierge platform as well is some fantastic IP. Other cannabis companies were, setting up greenhouses, which, some of them people aren't even using anymore, and spending millions and millions of dollars there. In fact, hundreds of millions. We've spent about $3 million on the development of Althea concierge, and we see it as the backbone to our sales and marketing.
Yeah, in fact, you've touched on again one of the points I wanted to mention, the legal side from an investor point of view, which is probably the most appropriate to our conversation now. Some investors may be thinking that the legal side is a bit of a movable feast. The goalposts can be changed either positively or negatively because of the history of this particular space. How comfortable are you in the space and sort of knowing the rules and anticipating them and not letting them upset the business, let's say?
I would just look for fundamentals, right? I think that's important, and it's fairly easy to achieve licenses for things like cultivation of cannabis and manufacturing, but you've got a long, long way to go, to earn your place in the market proper. And when I think about our company, I think about it as a going concern. Yes, it's early revenue, but we certainly, I think we did 5 million for the last half as December 31. So it's, getting to a point where it's very substantial, but we've, the potential is massive. But you've just got to look for those fundamentals, because it's not an easy market downstream. It looks easy upstream if you just think that the patients are going to be there day one when you open up your cultivation or manufacturing facility. But I can tell you from experience, it's not like that. You have to do the work, and there's no shortcuts. And, with Althea, those fundamentals are there.
I suppose the more barriers to entry there are once you're in, the better it is for the person who's on the inside.
Exactly right. As I said, it's much easier to sustain market share than it is to earn it. And, we've got about a 35% market share from estimates at the moment in the UK. It's a low base, but the thing is, if this gets up to the $5-6 billion industry in a few years that they think it will, that's a pretty healthy position to be in, even if we come down a peg or two from that. So it is about planting your flag early. But, people really need to look at the fundamentals and realise that downstream, where the products actually get sold, it's a difficult environment to operate, and people are either going to sink or swim.
Joshua Fegan, CEO and Managing Director at Althea Group Hldgs, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.